Alright, here's the real story on Christopher Columbus. No fluff, just straight facts. Early life and background. Columbus was born in 1451 in Genoa, modern-day Italy. He was a sailor from a young age and eventually became obsessed with the idea of reaching Asia by sailing west across the Atlantic. At the time, most educated Europeans knew the Earth was round, but they underestimated its size. Columbus, however, believed Asia was much closer than it actually was. The voyages, 1492 to 1504. After getting rejected multiple times, he convinced King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain to fund his trip. In 1492, he set sail with 3 ships, the Nina, Pinta, and San Maria. Instead of reaching Asia, he landed in the Caribbean, likely in the Bahamas, and mistakenly called the indigenous people Indians, thinking he was near India. Columbus made 4 total voyages to the Americas between 1492 and 1504. He never set foot in what is now the U.S. He mainly explored parts of the Caribbean, Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Central America. The dark side, slavery, violence, and brutality. Columbus wasn't just an explorer. He was a colonizer. His expeditions were brutal. He enslaved native people, forcing them to mine gold and work for the Spanish under horrendous conditions. Those who resisted were tortured, mutilated, or killed. He ordered mass executions, and if a native didn't meet his gold collection quota, he'd have their hands cut off. Rape and forced marriages of indigenous women were also common under his rule. On his second voyage, he brought 17 ships and over 1,000 men to establish colonies. When he couldn't find enough gold, he sent 500 indigenous people back to Spain as slaves, a move so extreme that even the Spanish monarchy disapproved. His governance of Hispaniola was so cruel that Spanish authorities eventually arrested and sent him back to Spain in chains in 1500. Though he was later freed, he never regained his status and died in 1506, still convinced he had found a new route to Asia. The legacy and the lies. For centuries, Columbus was mythologized as a heroic explorer who discovered America. The reality? He didn't discover anything. Millions of indigenous people already lived in the Americas, and Norse explorers, like Leif Erikson, had reached North America 500 years earlier. His voyages kicked off the transatlantic slave trade and European colonization, which led to the deaths of millions of indigenous people through war, forced labor, and disease. Today, Columbus remains a controversial figure. Some celebrate him for opening up the Americas to European expansion, while others see him as a symbol of genocide and imperialism. That's why many places have replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day, a move to recognize the brutal impact of colonization. The bottom line, Columbus was a skilled navigator, but a ruthless and greedy conqueror. His actions led to the devastation of entire civilizations. That's the part of history school books often gloss over.